These habits have ruined the rest of my life. Do you recognize any of these in yourself? Share with me. I always think I'm right and everyone else is wrong. Honestly, I don't even want to hear what you have to say because in the end, I know I'm right. I tend to blame others and will do whatever it takes to get out of trouble. I'm always finding excuses and blaming the circumstances to justify my actions. I have a habit of constantly playing the victim. I believe life is against me and I'm just at the mercy of it. Does this sound like someone you know? Seeing others struggle or fail sometimes makes me feel good, and I even want them to suffer more. Gossiping about others is a crucial part of my conversations. I often show up late to appointments. I never plan my time properly, and sometimes I even intentionally arrive late just to make others wait for me, as if I'm the important one. I never let people see that I've prepared well or that I respect their time. I always try to grab attention with inappropriate behavior and often steer conversations back to myself. There was a time when I completely shut down my body language, slouching, avoiding eye contact, and not engaging with others. I hoped people would stay away and leave me alone. I isolated myself from all social relationships. I've devalued myself, avoided talking about my own life, and instead focused on criticizing others negatively. I sought sympathy from those around me by sharing toxic stories, and we'd laugh at the people we didn't like. Spotting others' flaws became easy for me, almost like an automatic reflex. I always pretend to be busy by constantly checking my phone, even when I'm just faking it to avoid having to talk to anyone comfortably. This has become my default mode. I do it so much that I've forgotten even the basic courtesy of saying hello to people. I've never been eager to meet someone new. I get awkward around strangers. What if I have to talk to someone I don't really know? Like, what am I supposed to do? Make new friends? And when I'm late or mess up in life, I always have an excuse ready. There's always some half-baked reason why I did something wrong. I blame it on something, anything but myself. I never admit my mistakes or seriously try to fix them. I just cycle through a bunch of excuses and keep track of when I last used them. The bottom line is, I never own up to my wrongdoings, even when I know it's my fault. I can't even remember the last time I said, I'm sorry. At first, I really thought nothing was ever my fault. Everything that went wrong had to be someone else's doing or just some random external factor. I was completely convinced that all my misfortunes were caused by others. Without those things, success would come to me naturally. I say yes when I really want to say no. If something doesn't align with your values, makes you uncomfortable, or harms your mental health, then say no. Even if you already said yes. Even if it feels like you're going back on your word. Even if the other person gets mad, your words should mean something. Say what you really want to say, always. After all, how can you get any validation if you don't talk about yourself? And you need as much validation as possible. Acting like this with others makes you so exhausting to be around that you'll find yourself losing friends instead of making new ones. Let any celebration or affirmation be tinged with bitterness in your awakening. Serve every compliment with a backhanded slap. Say one thing but do another. Act one way in front of people and a different way behind closed doors. Live your life like you're a bunch of different people. Be unpredictable, even to yourself, like a chameleon. Give explanations when they're not needed. No, I can't make it. I'm busy then. That doesn't work for me. What do these statements have in common? They're all complete sentences. They don't need any extra context. Ask yourself, why am I giving unnecessary information? You'll probably find that you feel obligated. Why do you feel that way? Because you don't want to let people down. Why don't you want to let them down? Because you want to be liked. What you really need to do is sit with that part of you that craves being liked, instead of offering unnecessary explanations. Speak clearly, intentionally, and briefly. Nothing more is needed. Whoever you need to be at any given moment becomes so disconnected from your own moral standards that you lose any sense of identity. Never give yourself over to the effort of planning or the humility of prayer. Just wish things were different. Spend your days imagining the perfect world and the perfect life. Believe that you're not worthy of redemption, that somehow your flaws are unforgivable. Actively refuse to forgive yourself. Accept the idea that no matter what you do, you deserve condemnation. Believe that you're fundamentally bad. And since people tend to act according to what they believe about themselves, this will make it much easier to keep doing bad things. That's just who you are. Live your life like you've been dead for 30 years and it's too late to change anything. Gossiping is one of the cheapest forms of communication. Don't believe me? Just listen to Brené Brown, the researcher on shame and vulnerability and a best-selling author. Brown writes, "The opposite of true intimacy is counterfeit connection." She says, if the bond we share with others is simply that we both hate the same person, the intimacy we experience is often intense, instantly gratifying, and an easy way to discharge resentment and pain. But it's not fuel for real connection. It's also the kind of intimacy that can leave us with a hangover of shame. Was I really a part of that? Whenever possible, talk about ideas, not people. And if you have to talk about others, build them up instead of tearing them down. That's what you'd want others to do if they were talking about you. Complaining? Venting to friends is normal. You can unload your thoughts to someone you trust. It's even okay to not want to deal with something but still roll up your sleeves and get it done. But complaining, that's never helpful. Complaining keeps you stuck in a negative scarcity mindset. It rarely brings you any closer to inner peace. And if it doesn't move you toward peace, why are you doing it in the first place? Exactly. In my 20s, I was completely driven by what others thought of me. If they clapped, I listened. If they frowned, I took note. If they told me to do something, I followed. It was exhausting. But that exhaustion taught me something important. Relying on others for every little piece of feedback wasn't about trusting their judgment. It was about doubting my own. That realization changed my life. When I discovered that saying no to others was really just saying yes to myself, I started setting healthier boundaries. I learned to trust my instincts, follow my gut, and stand my ground. I began reclaiming my personal power. It's time for you to do the same. Below, I'm sharing 15 harmful, self-sabotaging, and toxic habits that might be holding you back from reaching your full potential. At least they were for me. And if I could learn and grow past them, so can you. All you have to do is try.